Hey. Alexandra. Fire. Nora. Jose. Sade. Jay. Yee Yee. Whole crew is here. Notification squad, that's what I like to hear. What's good? We're doing fantastic. Emily's here, what's up? Starting the countdown. 20 minutes of chatting with the fam before we kick off these cryptid stories. What do you guys think about that? Redmouth, you actually got a notification. It's good to hear. I'm actually curious. I added these new little things to overlay over top of the video. One of which is like it shows the number of viewers. And then another is like showing like if anybody donates or anything like that, it will keep it posted as almost like it's scrolling across the screen type thing. But I'm kind of a tech nerd when it, or not tech nerd, but tech novice when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I'm curious whether I have done it right or not. Hallie Long with the 2 says, making this bread in butter socks. Oh yeah. Spread the butter on the sock. Spread it on the bread. Make some toast, whatever you want to do. Yeah, this music plus the voice. It's like a late night DJ. Welcome to Let's Read. Here, we're playing some lo-fi hip-hop with the best beats in town. If you donate, will I say buckaroonies? Oh yeah, that's guaranteed. Yeah, I'm not really sure if this updates or not. As far as the number of viewers, but just good to see you guys here. It says 0 on the screen, but it would appear not. Ruby Meza with the $2 says, whoa, your voice though. Well, thank you, Ruby. Patrick, it's a pleasure to see you here. Green tie sound like King Spook. When I was a boy, a few different things that I've learned in my time in the academy. Old Muffin with a big old dono here. $15 says, can I be mod in Discord? Lol. A mod in the Discord is one of those positions that you must earn over time, my friend. You must earn the trust of your peers. You must prove your love for the community and your level-headedness. One cannot simply buy their way to modship. But thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate that. Holly Frazier with the buckaroonie from Australia. Thank you. Bread Moth, what's up, bro? With the 5 buckies and says, so when will you jump on the cryptocurrency bandwagon, or will you wait until you're demonetized again? Just saying. Oh man, it's so hard to say. I struggle to feel confident in it, you know, or knowledgeable rather. You're gonna have to walk me through it here. And Jenny H with the $20 Bonos, my goodness, thank you. You guys are very generous tonight. Holy cow. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Jenny. I'm not sure if you meant to add a message on there or not, but either way, I really appreciate that. And Breadmoth Gun with the 2 says, I just want to be a mad lad in Discord. Is that one of the... I'm unaware of the current positions. You guys are real mad lads right now. Can't even keep up with it. It's crazy. And Connor McCutcheon with the 5 says, I love these paranormal stories. Nice. Yeah, these ones should be good tonight. They're about cryptids. Now, I know some people may not figure them to be too true, but they, to me, are incredibly interesting. And whether or not they're true, well, they might just open you up to a world you never did see before, quite. If that's English, I'm not sure. Electra Heart with the 5 says, Joel, you better be proud of me because I've decided to become a cryptozoologist? Is that a profession? Because that sounds like a dream job right there. We're going to have to consult. You're going to have to hear some of these stories and see if they correlate with your research. Jess with a 5. Hey, been a while. Can't wait for these stories. Absolutely. Thank you, Jess. Good to see you here. Welcome back. Spit and coffee, my favorite combination. Just donated $5. Says, I've always been curious about if you've had any spooky, creepy, weird things like the stories you read happen to you. Honestly, the only things that's really happened to me is just kind of some basic sleep paralysis type experiences, sort of paranormal things of that nature. But really nothing too groundbreaking in the sort of stalker department type thing, or like the creepy human encounters and stuff. I tend to be relatively vigilant kind of right out the get-go, so and you know, like, I don't know, me being a guy kind of plays into it a little bit, you know. Not like I'm some super intimidating figure or anything like that, but fortunate enough to not have to deal with certain things that some people go through. And I feel sorry for him, to be honest. And not a little boy, not a little boy, $2 says, please say, Uncle Danny, can I have some goldfish? Uncle Danny, can I have some goldfish? It's the greatest name and one of the best things you could have asked me to say. Thank you. Colin Granmond with the 10 Canadian maple syrup doll hairs. Joel, would you like a baguette? I wouldn't mind one. That'd go nice with my chai tea. Oh, Miss Molly, you're right. I did miss you. I'm sorry about that. She with the $2. Thank you so much. And it says, good evening, Joel. How are you tonight? I'm doing great. Yeah, sorry. Sometimes they pop up on that side banner because it's when it comes through the super chat, it shows up in the chat. But when it comes in from PayPal or anything of that variety, it tells me on the side in a separate indicator, and then I can gloss over it almost too easily. But thank you so much. I'm doing good tonight. I'm feeling good. I'm excited for these. I like when I can give some variety in the stories here. Breadmoth with the 2 says, you missed Molly's message. Oh yeah, sorry. Thank you guys. Keep me on track here. I appreciate that. Well, you guys were very, very generous right out the gate. So that's, you just filled my room with Scrooge McDuck coins. So guys, thank you so much. His voice has a 6-pack, yeah. I've been working on it. I've been hitting the vocal gym every day. Gargling lots of salt water. Brian, Pittsburgh, PA in the house. Nice. I was just there for a daughter's concert about last week this time. Had a good time. Pittsburgh's a great place. It's a nice city. Seems like a chill city. Connor, my man, with the 2. Buckaroo says, props to you for always getting my last name right. Yeah, McCutcheon. Yeah, I think there's a baseball player on the Pittsburgh Pirates that has the same name. I'm not sure if it's spelled the same, but I hear it pronounced here and there because I've got a few friends that are, Buccos fans, so to speak. I should probably just take off on the screen that scrawling donation thing because I'm not sure if it's just playing old stuff or what. I gotta have someone on the some tech whiz, some, what do they call them, the Best Buy geniuses in the background running the show there. Let's see, just gonna go to the editor real quick, and viewer count, we can turn that off. The donation ticker, we tried it out, we gave it a whirl. I'll figure it out. Oh, okay. I just had to, that's interesting. You just had to reset it. My bad. That's actually hilarious. Just a hard reset. And that viewer count is consistent with the other aspects there. So cool. But guys, thank you so much. We got a donation from Forever Unicorn. They should start a store in the mall for that. That would be great. Instead of Forever 21. With the $5 says, hello again from the surface of the sun, aka Lower Alabama. Oh my goodness. Can't imagine how hot it is right now, and the bugs. The bugs! Not the bugs! Miss Molly with the 5 says, I also wanted to thank you for putting my face on your Insta today, bae. Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for getting some merch, buying a shirt, and modeling it for me. Of course, I'm gonna show off my beautiful fans. If anybody else is rocking the merch and want to, either submit it to me over Instagram or in the Discord or however you feel fit, I'm always more than happy to share that with the good people of IG and Twitter. Strawberries for breakfast. I did have those about yesterday with $2. Says, how many voice cracks have you had mid-read? Oh boy, probably thousands, countless times. Just losing my dignity every time. I'm like right on the cusp of my seat, and a little squeak comes out and reminds me that I am but a wee boy. Nightman with the 2 says, hope you're doing well, Joel. Thank you, Nightman. I'm doing great. It's good to be with you guys. You guys are honestly keeping my spirits up every time I'm reading, because sometimes reading can get a little bit lonely out there. Jensen, waiting for the Let's Read bread sock merch. Yeah, butter sock merch is coming up. Don't you worry. We've got that in the works. Natalie has helped me with that design, and I'm loving it. So I like to space things out a little bit so we don't do too much content in one day, just to give everybody something on a slow trickle. But that's going to be sweet because it's actually hilarious. The butter sock cult will live on through the merchandise. James Warren with the $1 buckaroo. Thank you, James. And Terrence Jones with $10 says, yo, I'm so happy you didn't get defunded just like a bad dream. It's over, baby. Love from California, like always, bruv. Well, yeah, me too. Well, that was a scary dream. A bad nightmare, to be honest. And I honestly don't think we could have gotten YouTube's attention without everybody reeing and screeing. So I really appreciate all those shout-outs for me. Help me out on social media, because that definitely made my heart drop a bit. Electra Heart with the 2 says, I have to sleep, so I'll DM you on Discord about it. Okay, sounds good. Thank you for stopping by, and thank you for the dono. Get some good sleep. Spit and Coffee says, I am paying cash money. Okay, not actual cash, but whatever. To hear you say, you've yeed your last ha, as melodramatically as possible. That was it right there. Maybe I'll try. Let me get another take in here. You've yeed your last ha, partner. I hope that was worth it. Making it rain on me to get me to do these tricks. Make sure I didn't miss me. Oh, there's Garrett Wiseman with the 2 says, oh yeah, stream time. Yeah, Garrett, welcome back. Old Muffin says, hey, Alabama chick, I live in Fairhope. Where are you? Thank you, Old Muffin with the 2. We got a whole Alabama family here. Joel's not the best reader. Not quite. Ashley, my goodness. With the big old $20 donation says, just because you're awesome. Your voice melts all the ladies. Oh, and the butter sock shirt. Can't wait for that. Thank you. Yeah, Ash, I saw you got the Valentine Day oriented merchandise there as well. I'm definitely throwing that up on the Instagram very soon. Thank you so much for that. I hope everyone had a good day. Today was good. My day pretty much just consists of weightlifting, getting, just doing back-end kind of stuff for the YouTube channel. And then, of course, looking forward to the streams with you guys here every day. Strawberries for breakfast with the $1. Thank you. I had those strawberries. At my breakfast place in town, breakfast, lunch, whatever time you're waking up. They have bowls of fruit you can get, but with your breakfast, and I always make a little special request for all strawberries. And they are just ever so kind to provide that because strawberries are the best. They always put in like cantaloupe and what is it? I want to say mildew, but it's not mildew. Melon, little like green melon, and it's just kind of like the melon stuff is just kind of flavorless, and I feel like it just kind of gets in the way. It's certainly not. It's definitely refreshing, especially if you guys are on the surface of the sun down south. But other than that, oh yeah. Also, someone had mentioned they were from, or you guys had mentioned being from California. Like I said before, I will be in California in Anaheim at VidCon, July 9th through the 14th. So if you guys are out there and you want to get a real life face reveal, be sure to hit me up. We're going to be having a good time. It's going to be me, Blame It on George, and That Creepy Reading. If you don't follow their channels, be sure to make a lot of good content. We're all going to be just frolicking through the whole theater. Not a little boy with $4.20. Is there a way to join the Discord server? There is. That should be linked down below in the description, along with pretty much anything else you could possibly want to find down there. Social media, all that good stuff. But oh, Garrett, you live in Los Angeles. Nice. Not too far, but I'm not really sure how far LA is from Anaheim. Apparently it's, where we're going is right next to Disney. So that should be sweet. Oh my god, no joke, it was 105 degrees out. That's actually insane. Jensen, thank you. Yeah, Jensen just linked the Discord in the chat. If you guys want to click on that, join that, create a Discord account. A lot of cool people in there to hang out with, join in voice chat, and just spend your nights gabbing away. Might even get to catch me in a back alley somewhere around there. Not a little boy with the $4.20 again says thank you, nephew. Thank you, uncle boy, uncle little boy. All right, one more minute, guys, of just chilling like a villain. Got about 300 people here so far. Be sure to hit that like button. Apparently that really helps YouTube's algorithm to let them know, hey, people are having a good time with this live stream, and it brings quite a few more fantastic subscribers into the chat that you get to have a nice party with. Leela, do I have pictures of my cat on my Discord? I do. I might have to dig through to find him, but he's definitely in there quite a few times. My voice is butter, covered in butter. We got that butter on butter action. You live in Idaho with the potatoes. Aren't I nervous for the face reveal? No, my face is all up on Discord, so if you really want to check it out. Old Muffin with the 2 says, mod please. I don't really know why you want to be a mod. It just seems being a mod's really kind of more, I feel like, tedious for people than it is just to be. It's kind of like being a deacon in a cult or something of that nature. There's too much responsibility. It will happen. I don't know why you want to be a mod so bad. There's a lot of, you gotta put in 40 hours a week, man. You gotta back-breaking work. You gotta bust stones. You gotta move. Whoa. We got a full-grown pizza here with Will Weldon as a new member. Welcome, Will. Thank you for joining. Smash forehead on keyboard to continue. Yeah. Well, with that amazing turn of events here, a new member and all that good stuff. Guys, thank you so much for your generosity. I appreciate it. We're gonna switch over to the spooky tunes of Iron Cthulhu Apocalypse, who is also linked down below. We'll switch over to our reading screen as well. If you like these tunes, the lo-fi hip-hop, chill lo-fi beats, you can go to No Copyright Music free audio library and find all that there. It's pretty ballin'. Let me know if this music's too loud for you as we go forward, just so it's not disturbing anybody's relaxation. Not a little boy with the $4.20 again. Says your voice is the vocal embodiment of Wagyu beef. I don't think I've ever had Wagyu beef, but that sounds delicious. Jasper, welcome, welcome. So we make our transition over here to the beautiful effects carved out for us with painstaking accuracy by Robin Mikalsen. He's also linked down below. Fantastic artist. He does birthday parties too. Will Weldon with the 5 Canadian says, you're welcome. Love listening to stories. Would I read fiction that you write? I believe that I would. Maybe not necessarily on the channel, but I certainly would check it out. And would love to. I love checking out people's writings. We have in the Discord a spooky, some story time is what it's called. It's a channel in the Discord where people can submit their stories and everybody can give you feedback live right on Discord, as well as you could submit it to my subreddit, reddit.com/letsreadofficial. That's where we pretty much get all my user submitted stories. Also, this is my favorite part of the song. You guys might not be able to hear it, but I love it. I don't know what it is about that tone, that sort of creepy pad. They call it a pad or some sort of tone, but it just hits me right in the feels. Bad mods destroy a channel fast. Yeah, we want good mods. We want devoted mods. We want mods who are mature, who don't want power, who don't care about power. We don't need power here. We're all equals. We all equally have no power. Freedom from power is what we look for. freedom from ourselves, selves. Tracy Christian, welcome back. Tracy's a member. You can see because of the little alien, or not alien, but skeleton astronaut man next to her name. You too could have that little picture next to your name by becoming a member. Alright guys, I'm excited about these stories because the first one, well, I'm not going to ruin it for you. Just know that I'm kind of, as we experience this, we're experiencing it together. Because I kind of have no idea what to expect. And it's going to be kind of one heck of a ride. This first one is called Cryptid Reptilian. Oh yeah, who's in charge of keeping track of my mistakes? And just so you guys are aware, as we go through the stories, I will make mistakes here and there, sometimes more often than not. Sometimes I get on a streak, a hot streak, so to speak. And obviously feel free to troll me as we go along. I love just a good-natured ribbing. And yeah. I lost my train of thought, but that's cool, dude. You know what? Sometimes it's good to have Alzheimer's, you know? It's good to just forget everything and have no idea what you're doing, you know? Oh, first, before I get started, I have to give a disclaimer that these stories were provided and submitted by the awesome people, Mr. Xstreams' channel. So he has MrXtreams.com, where a lot of people submit to his podcast, True Scary Stories, but a lot of them revolve around very strange experiences, such as the paranormal and cryptid encounters, such as you'll hear today, and a lot of this whole theme is kind of revolving around that. So I'm just going to give a little spiel for him that I have to record that will start before the video begins. The stories featured in this video are based on true experiences from subscribers of the Mr. Xstreams YouTube channel and the Dreamercast Paranormal Podcast. If you or someone you know has a fascinating true paranormal experience you'd like to share, check out MrXtreams.com to submit your story. That's MrXDREAMS.com. Enjoy. Whoa. If that doesn't catch someone's attention within the first 5 seconds, I don't know what will. Jasper, we see you, man. Time to chill. Time to chill. I had to put Jasper in the timeout corner. He was being naughty in the chat. That's the only thing. I mean, honestly, I love chatting with people. I love trolls. I love people giving me crap. I love all the positivity. Mainly, this entire community is positive, you know what I mean? But just don't spam stuff. Spamming is just, it's attention seeking, and to me, it's just immature. It's just immature, you know what I mean? All the spamming and the screeching and the reeing. But yeah. It's all good. We're moving on. We're going to hit this story hard right out the gate. Come out the block running. My name is Lou. First off, my name is Lou. First off, I love your channel. It's so great that people can share their stories. It's this community and the environment you created that emboldened me to actually share my own life-altering experience with the unknown. Alright, you know what? I might actually read that part because I feel like it kind of like is a bit of a good build-up. Yeah, we'll just start it. My name is Lou. First off, I love your channel. It's so great that people have a place to share their stories. It's this community and the environment you created that has emboldened me to actually share my own life-altering experience with the unknown. I normally don't like to talk about it for fear of what people would think, but if there is any place I'd find some level of compassion and understanding, it must be here with you and the people who listen. Several years ago, I was on my way home from work in the financial district of Lower Manhattan. I worked in an office building literally a block away from Wall Street. This was late 2011, around the time of those Occupy Wall Street protests in Zuccotti Park. The streets were packed with people wearing backpacks and headphones, carrying signs and megaphones. It was pretty much impossible not to bump into people as you tried to navigate the narrow sidewalks. The hassle wasn't anything special to me. I had my earbuds in with music playing to drown out the noises during my commute, just like any other day. I do consider myself a New Yorker, though. Oops. Fried spam. Who's eating fried spam? That sounds like a camper's dream. I do consider myself a New Yorker through and through, after all. However, in order to get to the subway and back to Queens, I had to either go around or right through Zuccotti Park, which... not Zuccotti. Is it Zuccotti? Is it Zuccotti? You know what I'm going to do, just so that I'm not embarrassed because I know some New Yorkers will be sure to let me know I ain't pronouncing it correct. I want to make sure that I get it right the first time.
Zuccotti.
Zuccotti. Interesting. Looks like we got it right. However, in order to get to the subway and back home to Queens, I had to either go around or right through Zuccotti Park, which did get a bit annoying after a while. Still, crowded streets are a part of reality. Unfortunately, the same is true for the millions of homeless people taking refuge in the various nooks and crannies of the city. I'm not a saint or anything, but I do try to at least drop a bit of spare change in their cups every so often. I wish I could say it was every time, but it's not. I want to help when I can, but I'm embarrassed to say that I'm sometimes in such a rush that I don't even notice them there. I guess that makes me no different than the people who just breeze by the needy without giving the poor souls even a single glance. Sometimes it's as if the homeless are an invisible element in our cities, subsisting on the scraps left behind by those more well-off. I think that may be the reason what happened that afternoon, right in the midst of crowds of people, was able to go unnoticed. I don't think anyone but me realized or even cared about what was happening. The park was too crowded for me to walk through. Instead of trying to fight my way across the subway, I had decided to circle around and try a different stop in a quieter area. To get there, I cut into a side street that was significantly less busy. The moment I set foot there, I was struck with a feeling of heaviness and dread that instantly plunged my previously decent mood into an abyss. I couldn't understand why or where it was coming from, so I pulled out my earbuds and turned my music off. I felt I needed my senses to be as sharp as possible for whatever danger I was sensing. As I tucked the earbuds away into my coat pocket, a pungent odor began to creep into my nose. It was the smell that hits you when you walk into a subway car that a homeless person has made their home. I looked ahead toward the corner of one of the buildings to see a surprisingly young man in torn-up jeans and a hoodie. He had wild black hair and a long, unkempt beard. He rocked back and forth with a look of utter hopelessness etched into his face. He clutched a small cardboard sign covered in writing. I picked out a section that read, "Help, please, Army vet. Lost everything. Just need $40 to get back home." There were very few people walking down that particular street, but there were enough passing through that he would occasionally pop out from his corner with his arms outstretched holding the sign, begging for acknowledgement. It was a sad sight to behold. I felt terrible knowing that I had nothing on me to spare, so I would inevitably end up being one of those people myself, walking by him without seeming to care at all. Just as that thought crossed my mind, I saw an odd-looking man further down the road walking toward the homeless guy. The strange man stopped and crouched down to the homeless one's level. After staring at him for a moment, the stranger reached into his pockets and pulled out a large roll of cash, holding it out in front of him as if to offer it, but clearly holding back. It was a bizarre sight, especially in New York City, but at least I no longer felt guilty for being unable to help the poor guy. I wish things went as you would expect from that point on, but unfortunately, that's where things began to get weird. To be honest, I've been building up this long preamble because every time I think back to this event, a sharp chill runs down my spine and I swear my eyes tear up. As I continued to walk toward the pair, I realized that everything, like the world around me, began to slow down somehow. The loud noises of city streets faded into a soup of auditory blur, every sound muffled as if though I was holding my hands over my ears or had my head under... Whoops. We made it. That was a pretty good streak there, actually. Oh yeah, let me switch back to my dashboard so I don't miss any donations. I was on the editor, as they say. Maybe not dashboard. Where is that? Live. Okay. Yes. Scroll up here a tad. Also, I hope that music's not too weird for you. Sarah Taxi White with the 1. Thank you, Sarah. I'm going to move this music forward a tad. There we go. It kind of had a bit of a high frequency to it, though I thought it was kind of went well with the story. Like if someone was starting to go insane, they would be hearing that, you know. Number 14, Burger King foot lettuce. My kitty is doing fantastic. He wants ever so badly to get out and see the chickens, but I think it's best that we keep them apart. Used to drink sun tea religiously as a child. Yeah, the background music was a bit high-pitched, so I just kind of moved forward a bit. 13 past midnight, what's up? No worries. Welcome, welcome. What content are you working on lately, 13 past? Number 13 past midnight. Chickens rock. Chickens are pretty nice. It was really funny because I ordered food a little while ago, and this one guy who delivered the food, he's a really nice guy, older man, and he was like, oh, I opened the door and it was just like out of a movie. He looks up at me, he's like, chickens got out. And like I look behind him and one of the chickens is literally just like standing behind him as if though like he was like a your child who just got arrested by the police for spray painting or smoking drugs behind the skate park or something. It was pretty funny. Heaven Wells, I see you. Hello. "13 past midnight, you're working on Missing Persons series. That sounds interesting. I like that. Do a collab with Chills. I've been on Chills' Top 15's channel quite a few times when he first started it, and then a few times when he did like top 15 something scary stories on, I think on Chills, maybe for like a big kind of million subscriber type thing where he had a bunch of narrators on, which was cool. But it has been quite a bit of time, and I certainly would not mind being on his channel. To be cool. Swamp Dweller, what up, dogs? Has heard someone was smoking them drugs. Got some swamp stank half off, good sir. Oh yeah, I need that sticky swamp stuff, my friend. Swamp Dweller, what are you working on lately? We're talking to, got a few creators in here right now, and everyone needs to know what's popping. What's the good news in the creator zone? The loud noises of city streets faded into a soup of auditory blur. Every sound muffled as if I was holding my hands over my ears or had my head underwater. As this was happening, I realized I was staring at the strange man holding the wad of cash. I noticed how ordinary he was. Everything about him was plain. He was dressed like any other white-collar worker. A simple, or even slightly ugly brown suit hung loosely on his slender frame. He wore a tie and dress shoes and carried a generic leather briefcase. He also had a matching brown hat on his head, angled to hide the top half of his face. Looking back, I wish that was all I had seen. As I slowly made my way closer to them, the stranger lifted his head to meet the confused gaze of the homeless man. That's when I stopped dead in my tracks. The formerly bland appearance of the man became clearer to me, and I noticed two haunting features. His skin was a bizarre ashen white, not paper white, but not quite gray either. His eyes, they were a deeper black than I could ever describe. I tried my best to rationalize what I was seeing. A guy wearing black contacts and a business suit would be a little weird, but I'm sure it wouldn't be the first time someone made those particular fashion choices out in New York City. I can tell you this, though. A regular guy dressed that way would not be enough to stop a New Yorker in their tracks like it did me. It was more than the look of him. It was the feeling I got from him. It was like being punched in the chest. As a child, I dealt with frequent asthma attacks, and as an adult. Swamp Dwellers is really excited for this one. Everyone who wanted to learn more about skunk apes, I'd recommend checking it out this weekend. Oh, is that what you're working on? Just finished last edits on a new CRYPTID documentary. Oh, yeah. I need to know more about... Dude, what if skunk ape is actually just Florida man? Florida man is the real skunk ape in disguise. My favorite pizza. I love stuffed crust. I saw a funny meme where it was just like old romance novels, and the one was like, "The night you ordered stuffed crust." And I thought that was pretty beautiful. I'd read that story to all of you if I could. As a child, I dealt with frequent asthma attacks, and as an adult, I've had more than my fair share of panic attacks. But this was something else entirely. Much worse. A heavy, nauseating feeling that was born in the pit of my stomach and crawled up my chest before nesting in my throat. The air had become solid around me as I stood there frozen. I could see in my peripheral vision that other people were still walking by through the side streets, although they moved in slow motion. After a few moments, the strange man and the homeless man's voices seemed to emerge from the muffled white noise of the rest of the city. Their voices slowly became clearer and clearer. Shit. From Comet Pizza, oh my god. Their voices became... Oh, okay. Their voices slowly became clearer and clearer. I missed a lot of what was being said, but certain words stood out. "I don't want to die." The words stuttered from the homeless man's mouth as he reached for the money. His eyes were fixed on the roll of cash, yet steeped in hesitation and fear. The stranger smiled at him, and I swear to you, something about that smile made me want to scream. It was that moment I realized I couldn't scream even if I wanted to. I could do nothing but stand there helplessly, my feet nailed to this concrete sidewalk as the scene played out just a few yards in front of me. The stranger's response was chilling. "Oh, well, you're going to die either way, Robbie." Judging by the homeless man's reaction, that must have been his name. At the mention of his name, Robbie sat straight up with a look of slack-jawed amazement tinged with horror. Side note, going forward, I'll refer to the man in the brown suit as Brown, This will be important in a few moments. So before Robbie could say anything, Brown lifted his hands as if to give an important presentation and spoke again. His voice was just so wrong. I can only describe it as oily, gravelly and wet, like someone trying to talk through a mouthful of phlegm. If you think the description sounds gross, just imagine how foul it made me feel hearing. I need to blow my nose real quick. Not actually blow it, but sometimes whenever I'm dehydrated, I know this sounds kind of weird, but sometimes I get dehydrated, and as I talk, my sinuses start to dry up a little bit, and then I can almost hear a weird cracking of what is most likely mucus. I know that sounds gross. In the top of my sinuses. And basically, it makes that crack noise. And my mic that I use to record is super sensitive. And the last thing I want to do is disturb that recording noise, or that recording potential, with a bunch of gross snot cracks, if that makes sense. Okay. We have done it. I have these wet wipes or whatever, which are amazing, by the way. You should get some, not just for babies, right? We all can have baby's silk smooth skin. Oily, gravelly, silk smooth skin. Bread Moth with the 2 says, snort some of that Colombian marching powder. Oh yeah. That'll get me reading real fast. Not a single mistake will be had. Or if I do have one, I'll freak out suddenly and you'll never hear from me again. JK. If you think the description sounds gross, just imagine how foul it made me feel hearing it. Question is, do you want to die happy and comfortable, wanting nothing? Or here in this alley where no one will even notice until you've been rotting a while? I still don't know how that scream didn't fly out of my mouth after what happened next. If I could have moved at all, I might have jumped right out of my skin. A third voice chimed in before its corresponding figure stepped into my view. Another strange another strange man showed up. Another strange man, nearly identical to Brown except taller and somehow even thinner and wearing a gray suit. I'll call this one Gray for the sake of organization. Gray held a lit cigarette and stared down at Robbie with a tired ambivalence. Take the money, Robert. We have things to do. Robbie nodded with a resigned expression as he took the cash. He gasped as he clawed at the bills, unfurling a surprising amount. This is so much, he exclaimed. I couldn't make out what was said next. I saw Brown stand up next to Gray, followed by Robbie standing and gathering his few possessions from the ground before thanking the 2 strange men and briskly walking toward me. He brushed past me in a hurry, thanking God over and over again, crying. I still couldn't move. I was stuck there as the 2 strangers' gaze fell onto me when Robbie was out of sight. The 2 sets of pitch-black eyes staring at me gave me the distinct feeling of being watched by something not human. Their mouths moved as if speaking to each other, but I couldn't make it out. The volume of the white noise around me was going crazy, up and down. It was disorienting. Eventually, I could hear a few bits of their conversation, but the language was unlike anything I've ever heard. Now think about this. I speak fluent Spanish and understand bits of many other languages, Italian, French, a little Japanese, Arabic, and even some Yiddish. You tend to pick up little things here and there living in New York. I can certainly place a language roughly when hearing it. What the strangers were speaking was unlike anything I'd ever encountered. The sounds they were making weren't even sounds that people made. It actually caused me physical pain in my ears when I really began to hear it, like when you hear a pop on an airplane. The feeling you know there's pressure there, but you can't get it out, so it stings. Oops. Oh, everybody's saying where they're from. Pennsylvania, oh yeah. Represent. Gillette, the best a man can get. Okay, so I said that last part wrong. Here we go. Like when your ears pop on an airplane. The feeling when you know there's pressure there, but you can't get it out, so it stings. The pain got so bad I wanted to vomit. Brown snarled a word at his friend in the same wet voice. English. Gray made a bizarre clicking noise, smiling the same horrific smile Brown did earlier. That far gone, huh? It'll be fine, Brown responded. Yeah? Then why'd you lie? What Brown said next still keeps me up at nights, even all these years later. He rolled his shoulders back and grunted. Doesn't matter. I'll be wearing that stupid chimp by the next moon. And made clicking noises. My eyes began to well with tears as I tried desperately to look away. I was still paralyzed. Slowly, the world began to creak back toward normal speed again. I'm telling you, I'm trying so hard not to cry as I sit here typing this. Just like the plight of Robbie or any other homeless person, no one bothered to even look at me as I stood there in terror. People were there, moving slower than normal, at least from my perspective, but no one stopped or noticed I was in trouble. Gray looked directly at me. My head started swinging and I felt immediately dizzy. My vision blurred and I lost focus on all things except one thing, Gray's voice. Well now, look what this one can do. Cute. Suddenly, Brown stepped forward from the blur in my eyes. His black-eyed face sneered at me from mere inches away. Whatever. A chimp's a chimp. They're all the same. Hey, you, chimp. Leave now. He snarled again, and I felt it in my bones. Keep walking. I wish I could tell you what happened next, but the next thing I knew I was standing on the sidewalk all the way at Columbus Circle in Midtown, almost a half-hour's walk north of where I was. A man I didn't know was holding my shoulders as random people passed by with concerned looks on their faces. When things came back into focus, I could finally hear the man's voice. Yo, you alright, son? He asked with a trembling voice. You almost walked into traffic, man. You okay? Must be on drugs, someone yelled out as they scooted by. I told the man I was okay as tears began to run freely down my face. I apologized and fled the scene, rushing over to the escalator to the A train, having no idea how I got up so far. Oops. I apologized and fled the scene, rushing over to the escalator to the A train, having no idea how I got so far uptown. By the time I got home, I realized I wouldn't be able to tell anyone, not even my wife. She'd definitely think I was losing my mind. I haven't seen those strange men or whatever they were since that day. I thank God for that. Over the years, I've done research into the paranormal to try to identify what they may have been, but I haven't found anything with their description of actions. Now, I've heard of black-eyed kids, and the vibes people seem to get from them are similar to how I've felt with Brown and Gray, but the situation overall was different. These were grown, at least middle-aged males, I think. I don't know what I saw. It still messes with me. I've been to therapy about this and have tried rationalizing, but no luck. Whatever the case, I can say that nowadays, I can go about my daily life without thinking about that incident. Whatever the case, I can say that nowadays, I can go about my daily life without thinking about that incident. Whenever I allow myself to reflect back on it, it shakes me up, and I'm not immune to late nights of insomnia for fear of nightmares. I still question my own sanity every so often. Was this even real? Reptilians. Yeah, I have, that's a good question. I have no idea if this is real or not, you know what I mean? It's fun to sort of suspend disbelief and, maybe imagine that Mark Zuckerberg is a reptilian. I'll have to ask him if this story is true or not, but I don't know, you wonder, all the strange phenomena here on Earth, you wonder to yourself what are the possibilities. The giant lizard god Zorp will save us all. Trust in Zorp. Oh wow, we're at 500 viewers, guys. That's pretty huge. Lizard people. Alex Jones was right, man. They're turning the frogs into lizards. Been saying it for years. What if he happened to be in between dimensions? I don't know. I mean, that could be, that would mean the homeless guy was as well. But suddenly waking up in a new location, that's not uncommon with, some of the alien stories and stuff of that nature. Cara Marie, are you a reptile? High taxes, cacti that jumps at you. Yeah, those were Godzilla babies, maybe. Godzilla's a lot smarter than we think. Cocaine. Just kidding. Everyone in Arizona. Yeah, I imagine to be in a state that hot, you gotta be a reptile. Yes, that was the Geico lizard. The Geico, or gecko. He hasn't had a lot of work lately, so... Well, actually, maybe he's had so much work that he's just handing out cash to homeless. Alright, so this one is entitled Cryptid Mimic. So you guys may have heard mimic stories before, which I always find to be especially creepy. So we'll see how this goes here. If the temp is above 70, you yeet. I guarantee you it's above 70 somewhere. Old Muffin, Arizona's not even hot. I guess you are down in Alabama where the humidity is probably melting the turtles. In my research and experience, I find cinnamon seems to work to ward off mimics. It had worked for the family of a friend of mine. That's the reason I write to you today. I'll explain. This happened when I was a little girl in the early 90s, maybe around 1993. I had a friend named Sandy. Sandy was an only child at the birth of her sister. Was the only child until the birth. Sandy was an only child until the birth of her sister, Faye. One summer when Sandy was about 7 years old, her parents decided to take a cross-country road trip to Disney World in Florida. The family had a great time at the park, but as many of us know, the days went by in a blur. I guess the human mind can only take so much. I guess the human mind can only take but so much childlike wonder and amazement before the memories start to run together. Before she knew it, Sandy and her family were packing up the minivan to head back home. This is where things got weird. As they finally made it home and unpacked their things, there was something wrong. Sandy noticed that somehow there was no longer just one Faye, but two. She didn't trust either of them, getting a strange feeling that each of the 2-year-old girls were aware of some hidden deception. Shortly after the return, Sandy's parents began going out and purchasing duplicate furniture pieces to accommodate the new addition to the family. I remember talking to her and us both being confused about the whole thing, even with our young, normally carefree minds. For quite a while, her parents simply referred to both girls as Faye, but eventually they took to calling one of them Kay. Here's where the cinnamon came in. Sandy's mother used to make her favorite cookies, snickerdoodles. After Kay showed up, Sandy complained that her mom never made them anymore. Cinnamon is a key ingredient. Gavin, why do you need help? What's going on, my friend? Cinnamon is a key ingredient. In fact, any traces of cinnamon basically vanish from the house before we notice. One time when Kay was about 4 years old, the four of us were at a mutual friend's house eating cereal. Kay tried a piece of our friend's cereal that was flavored with cinnamon sugar. She quickly spat it out, saying that it was icky. However, as she recoiled and grimaced, I noticed that she began to undergo some extremely disturbing changes. Her tongue and lips blackened, and the texture seemed to briefly shift in texture to something less than human. It was as if her skin had become charred and burned, with the blackness spreading across her lower jaw and up to her nose before retracting back to normal with frightening speed. The only reason I noticed it was because I was so distrustful of her. I usually found myself staring at her with a constant sense of suspicion. Gavin, you're depressed as hell. I'm sorry to hear that, my friend. Well, let me take a quick break here to discuss... Well, first off, to discuss the concept of depression. So the only thing that we know for sure, and I'm going to talk in very objective matter of facts here, is we know we're born, right? Whether that's from our mother or whether that's from a lab, we just suddenly pop into existence, into being. And we come to a very early realization that this is not a perfect world by any regards. Granted, I'm sure since most of you are on a computer right now, you have realized that you're in most likely a much better scenario than a large percentage of the human population. Now, when it comes to depression, there's many schools of thought. A lot of people here in the sort of modern era tend to look at depression from the perspective of sort of a biological experience, whereas sometimes it kind of gets muddled into the experience of sort of subjective perspective based in sort of mysterious and ethereal emotion, you know. And a lot of the times saying that you're depressed is, for lack of a better word, or words rather, ill-defined to define your depression. Now, it could be biological in nature from birth or circumstance or trauma or various other things, but it could also be circumstantial in the sense of something that is fleeting or passing by that you're going through right now. My advice is to very deeply look into yourself to see what it is that you've experienced in the past or recently that has brought you away from those negative thoughts, away from those negative feelings, and made you feel like something that you should be, like you should be that thing, or on a more consistent basis. This could be experiences such as relationships that you have with people, friends, and others of that nature. It could be activities that you do, exercising, sports, creating things such as art and various other forms of outlets of creation. And I'm sure a multitude of other fantastic things that do exist here in the existence of Earth and reality. And yeah, Joe Rogan, what is DMT? It's true. Have you tried DMT? No, I would advise against that. But first, I would just basically, very simplistically, I would say go out and experience life. You know, no matter how. A lot of the times, whenever I get, depressed, and when I say depressed, I say that loosely for myself because I understand that most of the time my depression is usually temporary or circumstantial. Though there is kind of a looming existential dread that I think exists within all of us, and I think that's why a lot of the times it's ill-defined, and we have to kind of come to the realization that death eventually comes for all of us, and we have to find that purpose in the brief period of time that we exist here. So that we can come to peace with it. But the things that have brought me joy and a sense of contentment and purpose, I would say, is family and friends, exercise, appropriate dieting. Certainly feel a lot better when I'm eating healthy than when I'm not. And there is correlations between certain receptors that exist within your stomach, as opposed, that are serotonin receptors that connect to your brain. So there definitely is a sort of tie between the old adage that food is medicine, and then exercise. As I said, like ever since I was young, one of the greatest things I could have done for my confidence was joining a sports team or something of that nature. Being part of communities, whether that's, Habitat for Humanity or, the Magic the Gathering Club or, church, whatever it might be. It's different for everyone, and it's tough to find that everywhere. But the greatest thing I can say is that at the end of the day, the best way to escape those sort of personal prisons that end up forming around us is we quite literally have to run from them. We have to go out and try. We really have to try, and you have to try and try again. Because the biggest difference between the person you compare yourself and yourself, there really is no difference between you and them. It's just that particular individual is not giving up. So that's really my biggest advice for you and anybody who experiences deep depression, is to never give up, to constantly try new things, and to find that which gives you joy in life, and just continue to research and find communities. And there's a lot of people that struggle and are from the same perspective that you are, all over and all around you. You might not even realize it, but communicating that is obviously the most important thing. And if you ever want to discuss any things like that, be sure to join our Discord. Not to shout, it doesn't matter, I would love people to join either way, but I mean, there are people in the Discord who go through things, and creating a community like that supports each other, I think is really beneficial. So yeah, never give up and keep trying. You will find it one day. The only reason I noticed it was because I was so distrustful of her. I usually found myself staring at her with a constant sense of suspicion. Faye, the original one, I think, had been eating the cereal by the handful. Kay started crying and knocked the cereal out of her sister's grasp, making her wash her hands before dragging her back to their house down the street. Sandy's mother forbade her children from visiting the house after they... Sandy's mother forbade her children from visiting the house after that, based on something Kay told her, and we never found out what. The weirdest part of all this is that Sandy's parents never acknowledged the weirdness of all this. The mysterious appearance. The mysterious appearance of an extra child in their home. The clear lack of preparation that made them have to go out and buy duplicates of everything, and so many other effects. Kay had the ability to make her presence seem so unextraordinary. Eventually, I lost touch with Sandy and her strange family after a series of bitter fights and arguments between her and I. We basically ripped each other to shreds emotionally, and I didn't see them again until the late 90s when my brother died. For some reason, Kay had clearly developed an intense hatred of me. I found that out over the years. Faye had been constantly sick with flus and other maladies. No one knew exactly why. Sandy finally moved away when her parents divorced. Please share this story because I would hate for anyone to end up like Sandy's parents, having one of their children truly mimicked with no knowledge of which is the original one. What's even worse is that a mimic can tie its life force with its victim, and in that case, they really will have an extra child, one that's secretly a demonic parasite with an extreme allergy to cinnamon. Cinnamon. Down, cinnamon, down. Cinnamon, cinnamon. Garrett Wiseman with the 5 says, you hit the nail on the head being someone who has had depression since it was elementary school. Yeah. Yeah, there, for me, it's just that. It's being part of a community. It's challenging my body. It's challenging your mind, pushing yourself in the direction of a greater purpose, not being complacent with sort of, in some ways, a diseased existence that every single human being goes through. And in a lot of ways, you might not even achieve those goals, but if you continue to push them to a certain extent, it's that drive that you have to get to that goal that will keep your mind from even existing in those lowest lows. And we're all just looking for freedom, I think. Freedom from ourselves. And a lot of the times I feel like people like they get caught up in judgments of others and stuff like that. And I've talked about this before here, but honestly, not a lot of people are as judgmental as you think. Or even if they do say something, I gave an example before, it was say you know someone and you think a judgmental thought about them. Now, your judgmental thought literally has no consequential action on who they are at all. But, in the more objective sense. But it can certainly affect their self-esteem, But for those of us who are trying to keep control of our self-esteem and our self-image and that kind of thing, we have to understand, because when we place judgments on other people, though it's not a good thing, they're essentially meaningless, because they have no real consequential action other than the fact that we feel them, But then, so in a similar fashion, whenever you feel judgment from other people, don't meditate on that or ruminate on those judgmental thoughts, because essentially in the same fashion that your judgmental thoughts are essentially pointless, to have on someone else, their judgmental thoughts to you are essentially pointless as well and have no objective outcome, So really, it's just how do we come to terms with ourself? How do we love ourself to the point where we can just feel comfortable? Twilight Twin Tarot with the $5. Thank you, Twilight. This one's called a Cryptid Military Alien Encounter. One of the mods is here. Is Jensen here? Show yourself, moderator. Do not hide from us. Quick gargle. Aliens. A year ago, I met a very interesting man who eventually became a good friend to me. I'll call him Chris, to protect his identity. We both have a military background, so naturally we spoke about some of our exploits in those past lives. Oh, that sounded weird. Past lives. CRYPTID Taco Bell nachos. Oh my god. Those sound amazing. Has anyone seen the new Men in Black movie? I mean, I think it just came out, like the 14th or maybe after that sometime, but I just feel like I didn't even watch a trailer. Or maybe I did watch a trailer, but it just looked like, I don't understand. Like, they got these big name actors, and they got big name writers, and they got big name everything. Like, why don't they put it towards new ideas? Like, I understand, like, that's not always a guaranteed, like, moneymaker. But, like, I feel like right now there's a market for new ideas that people really want to jump. It was 6 out of 10. Okay, yeah. People really want to jump on new ideas. We want to cling to something different. It also seems like such a weird crew. I mean, like, Hemsworth and that other girl, like, maybe they're both newbies. I don't really know the story, but they just usually, wasn't it the previous one? It was like, what's his name, Tommy Lee Jones or whatever, like, was the stoic, veteran, and Will Smith was the sort of rambunctious newbie. Okay, $100 million budget, and they only got about $22 million back from opening weekend. Yeah, I mean, you can just tell when something's kind of like dead in the water out of the gate, and it's just like, why do they continue to force that down our throats? Like, can we just get, like, yeah, like, if everyone loves Chernobyl, like, literally go hire that guy who wrote the Chernobyl series, if it's good or whatever, and have him make something new that you can just advertise the poop out of a week before something, or a month before something comes out. Like, just make a good movie. Like a lot of this stuff, it just seems like these production companies just like all right, pump that out, pump that out, pump that. It's like sometimes it's worse than YouTube video production, We both have a military background, so naturally we spoke about some of our exploits in those past lives. He had an unexpectedly haunting story to tell, and when I later got this channel up and running, I asked if I could share it with you. Past lives. Past lives. We both have a military background, so naturally we spoke about some of our exploits in those past lives. He had an unexpectedly haunting story to tell, and when I later got this channel up and running, I asked if I could share it with you. So here we go. This took place on an undisclosed military base located in the damp jungles of a remote island. Chris says he remembers the wilderness being unnervingly quiet for at least a week leading up to the incident. The personnel stationed there chalked the silence up to a strange, dang. Am I sure I'm not ear maker? I really don't think we sound that much alike, to be honest. I saw Godzilla, and I don't know what I expected. I'm just so jaded towards movies. I'm becoming an old man, honestly. The personnel stationed there chalked the silence up to a change in seasons or something. There had been reports of bizarre sightings, fast-moving animals no one could explain. Anyone who mentioned them was typically shut down with ridicule from fellow soldiers. The sightings were notably inconsistent with one another. Some saw large eyes, others saw small ones. Some heard a big thing trudging boisterously through the woods. Others heard the sounds of something small and light sneaking around in the bush. No one had seen anything worth defending in an inevitable argument, let alone losing their reputation over. Chris heard every report due to the fact that he was the desk sergeant at the time. Anyone who saw or heard something off, which could potentially impact the security of the base, would typically come to him to have it notated in the log. He never took the more fantastical reports seriously enough to actually write them down. unbeknownst to the concerned soldiers who came to him. Some of them came just to talk about what happened, off the record anyway, which would typically end with them just trading ghost stories. On the night in question, Chris and his team were on the far side of the island, an area which was completely uninhabited, where no human presence could be found for hundreds of miles in every direction. For that reason, the military chose that location for storing their weapons and explosives. Chris and a partner, who I'll call Barry, were conducting the nightly checks on the magazine storage areas, which lay several miles deep into the uninhabited zone. The jungle was still weirdly quiet, but it was good for them, being that their mission was to detect foreign intelligence or operatives tampering with U.S. equipment, or the occasional refugee group that was washing ashore. They were on a road that rested in the valley of two mountains, bordered by gigantic hills, thick and rocky with tall grass. As they drove along slowly with their Humvee windows down, they heard a heavy thud coming from the woods. A totally unexpected, unnatural sound emanated clearly from the tangled growth. The first thud drew attention, but was quickly followed by other noises. Barry shut off the headlights and shut off the engine so they could sneak up on whatever was out there. They knew anyone attempting to navigate the dense vegetation would have to do so carefully, taking time to avoid injury. But surprisingly, they could hear fast-paced walking, rustling through the tall grass. After a few moments, the sound began to move parallel to the road. They restarted the vehicle and started to pursue the noise. The walking continued for a while as they followed it with only their running lights before suddenly stopping. They at first thought they'd lost track of whatever it was, so they turned the headlights back on, assuming it was a deer or something, and continued a distance down the road. As Barry proceeded to turn the high beams on, both men noticed something in the distance, approximately 30 yards ahead. A humanoid creature jumping into the road, and then into the brush on the other side. It was gray, over 2 meters tall with a small, oval head. Its movements were too swift for its size. The best way he could describe its leaping motion was like that of an impossibly nimble frog. Seeing the creature instantly gave Chris the feeling of being punched in the stomach. His heart sank so rapidly and my adrenaline kicked in so fast that his adrenaline, oh my gosh. His heart sank so rapidly and adrenaline kicked in so fast that he began to feel nauseous, on the verge of vomiting. He laments the fact that neither of them had the will to chase after the creature, but that the feeling of being at such a disadvantage was absolutely petrifying. The idea that they were stalking it raised the question, were they hunting or being hunted themselves? Whatever it was, the monster definitely had the tactical advantage of position and mobility. Chris and Barry turned their truck around and sped off into the night. The woods remained silent for at least another week, returning to the normal droning sounds of the local wildlife. Dude, I like alien stories, man. Freaking weird. That would just change your whole freaking world view. Everything you believed in before just suddenly changes because you see some homeless gray alien. It just runs out of the woods going, booga, 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 wow. Wow, wow, wow. I needs me a pizza. Wow, 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 wow. You're like, oh, okay. Aliens are hilarious. Alright, this one's called Cryptid Hellhound in Costa Rica. Costa Rica, nice. Oh man, we hit 600 viewers currently. That's amazing. So be sure to continue hitting that like button if you haven't already to Every like alerts another person. That'd be funny if that's literally how it if that's how it worked. This came from a conversation I had, which quickly turned into a live interview with a friend of mine who lived in the neighborhood until very recently. His name was Gabriel, so today I thought I would try telling you the story rather than reading it from the perspective of the person who lived it. One evening, he and I were talking when the topic of discussion meandered into the tongue-tied and twisted. One evening, he and I were talking when the topic of discussion meandered into the territory of the strange, a thing that is quite common when I talk to people. As the keywords began to pop up, ghosts, vampires, dogmen, glitches, etc., I noticed a peculiar spark of familiarity, a passion in his eyes that told me without a doubt he himself had seen something in his time. Gabriel was a native of Costa Rica. He grew up most of his life there before immigrating to the United States. When I asked him if he had ever seen anything odd, his eyes widened. Yes, I did," he said, half excited, half under his breath. "Have you ever heard of, I don't even know how to say this. Cadejos? Cadejos. Let's search up that term quick so I don't say it wrong. Sounds right, but also could be completely wrong. Cadejos. Sometimes the definition websites will have the pronunciation to go with them.
Cadejo.
Oh, that's wrong. Cadejo. Is it the Cadejo?
Cadejo.
Cadejo. Cadejo. Gotta really spit it out of the back of your throat there. Cadejo. Cadejo. Have you ever heard of Cadejo? I had not. As he spoke, I ran an image search of the Spanish word. Gabriel's eyes shifted, almost looking past me as he recounted the story of a dark night in San Jose, Costa Rica, when he was only 10 years old. He lived with his mother, father, and older brother in a small suburb called Las Animas. Animas. Onimas. Las Animas. Cadejo. Okay. So we got Cadejo. Use the phlegm, Luke. Okay. Hopefully I say Las Animas. Animas. He lived with his mother and father and older brother in a small suburb called Las Animas, meaning City of Lost Souls. The family home was a brand new construction on a street with only 2 houses that were separated by several empty lots. Gabriel's father was a metal worker, so he made sure his home was fortified with steel doors, door frames, and window bars to withstand the high crime rate of the small town. The small backyard was walled in to make it less attractive to robbers, and they had a Doberman guard dog named Rambo to keep watch when the family was out and about. The dog had to be trained to only accept food from Gabriel's father because thieves in the area were known to try and feed poison to dogs. The dog had to be trained to only accept food from Gabriel's father because thieves in the area were known to try and feed poison to dog guard. Fuck, why do I keep saying that weird? Dog guards. The dog had to be trained to only accept food from Gabriel's father, because thieves in the area were known to try and feed poison to guard dogs in order to gain access to homes. In that neighborhood, there were typically an unspoken curfew for children after dark. If they were If they were away from home and not with their parents or didn't have a ride home, they were basically to stay the night wherever they were, just to be safe. So, one night, Gabriel and his brother Miguel were over at their friend Carlos's house, who happened to live in the only other house on their street. They ended up staying until just after nightfall, but they really wanted to go home anyway. The two brothers debated with Carlos and his mother about walking home. Although both houses were extremely well lit with floodlights, there was about 75 yards of unlit dirt road and knee-high grass between them. Now, they had made the trek into darkness before, but always with their mother waiting outside, keeping an eye on them. This time she was nowhere to be seen, making the boys feel a bit more apprehensive. As their debate madre? As their debate continues, their mother finally stepped out and began to wave at them to come home. When they saw her, the boys started on their way at a jog Man, I'm making 1 trillion mistakes this story. When they saw her, the boys started on their way at a jog why does it say oh, okay. When they saw her, the boys started on their way at a jog as they, turning back. Okay. When they saw her, God, I'm trying to pronounce everything in a weird way. When they saw her, the boys started on their way in a jog, turning back to say goodnight to Carlos and his mother as they went back inside. And this is where things get weird. When the girls... Dude, the hellhound's in my brain right now, and it's making me crazy. It's making me crazy, man. When the boys turned back to look at their mother, she was gone. What they saw instead, standing across the street in the middle of a field, a ways up the road, was a dog. The boys slowed to a deliberate walk as their old tennis shoes scraped along the unpaved, overgrown road. They stared at the dark figure in the distance, trying to decipher it. They could tell it was a dog, no surprise. They had to, but it looked far too large and imposing to be of their Dobermans. They noticed the glimmer of a thick chain wrapped around the dog's neck, the eerie sound of metal rattling, what the fudge? The eerie sound of the metal rattling permeated the night air. For a moment, they told themselves it was just Rambo, that maybe he broke free of his chain and got out. The brothers argued over whether or not it was Rambo as they walked steadily toward the house. The closer they got to where the mysterious dog was, the more they noticed that it seemed to be growing in size. When they finally realized that what they were looking at was not their beloved Rambo, the two young boys halted in their tracks. Gabriel looked up at Miguel. As we sat in my studio, Gabriel's... Oh, okay, this is jumping back to the old stuff. You don't know why, but you're not following. Basically, they went to a person's house, and as they're leaving, now they're seeing a creepy dog that seems to be growing in size as they are approaching it, realizing that it's not their dog, but may in fact be a hellhundo. Now, as we sat in my studio, Gabriel's eyes began to well with tears. He said that despite all the trouble they'd gotten into, it was the first time he'd ever seen his big brother scared. They didn't know it at the time, but what they were seeing, the thing that was watching them, was a conejo. What you and I know as a kind of hellhound. The black dog shifted its ominous gaze between the boys and their house, looking back and forth over and over as if acknowledging that at any moment they were going to have to make a run for it. It stood as an imposing wall between them and safe haven. The boys knew that they were too far to make it back to Carlos's house without being caught, but continuing down the road felt like certain death. The best chance was to walk back the way they came. They slowly turned and started back, when they heard the front door open. Their mother emerged from the doorway with her hand shielding her eyes from the floodlights. Throwing the fears into the wind, the brothers made the only decision they could. They broke into a sprint, running harder than they ever had before to save their mother. The hound's head shot toward her, and it catapulted its massive body into the air, leaping at least 30 feet in one terrifying motion before violently slamming into the ground and beginning its own mad dash toward the house. The beast cut a wide path through the tall weeds of the field. The loud metallic sounding of the... Oh, okay. The beast cut a wide path through the tall weeds of the field. The loud metallic sound of the chains intensified as it closed in. Somehow, the boys were able to get to their mother before the hound, grab hold of her and pull her inside. They slammed the doors behind him and retreated inside. Their mother prayed in a state of disbelief as the front door trembled with blow after blow from the enraged monster outside. After only a few moments of excruciating terror, the noise suddenly stopped, replaced by a loud car horn blaring from outside the garage. Gabriel's father yelled at them to activate the metal-clad garage door from inside the house. Miguel hit the switch, opening the garage door, and was promptly scolded by his father for letting the dog outside. Gabriel and Miguel opened the front door and looked around, finding no signs of the Cadejo. As they continued to investigate, they found poor Rambo cowering in fear, hiding in a small crawl space under the stoop of their porch. As I wrapped my head around this intriguing story, jotting down notes on my computer as I As I wrapped my head around this intriguing story, jotting notes on my computer as quickly as I could, Gabriel's face lit up at my clear... I feel like I'm messing up the more time passes. I don't know what's going on. ASMR, baby. Johanna Navarrete with the one buckaroony. Thank you. As I wrapped my head around this intriguing story, jotting down notes on my computer as quickly as I could, Gabriel's face lit up at my clear fascination with his experience. He told me, "You know what?" He used my real name. "I have another story for you. Have you ever heard of La Llorona?" I told him I did, but that's a story for another time. Well, that's interesting. Was I smoking weed? I was not smoking weed. I don't smoke a da ganja, man. It ain't my ting. I ain't about that life, yo. Dude hit a bong. No. You would hear me coughing up half a lung if I did that. I just hit my water bottle like a good responsible little boy and did a gargle. Small boy did a gargle. I love that meme with the where they put the dog, or they put the microphone in front of the dog, and she's like, "Okay, so basically, I am very small." It's so funny. Will Weldon with the $5 Canadian says, "Because my younger brother had a dog named Rambo." That's cool. I thought that. I was like, man, that's so cool. You could make a movie called Rambo and everybody just names their dog that. Natalia with the $5 because Joel makes the cookies crumble. Oh, yeah. And that's how the cookies crumble. Pros don't cough, lol. 'Tis true. I asked my friend yesterday, I was like, if they made a dispensary, Joseph, what would be your preferred way to consume it? And he's like, I don't know, I just consume it. It's like, okay. Now, I mean, like, would you want edibles, dabs, plant, whatever? And he was saying definitely dabs. And I've seen, I follow this one channel on, well, not channel, but page on Instagram. I used to follow it. I don't really do it anymore because it's kind of stupid, but it's called High People Doing Things. And basically it's just people smoking a lot of the ganja. And dude, every time someone hits a dab, it just seems like they die a little inside from their coughing. And it's just like a super concentrated amount, and I don't know if I could ever bring myself to that. And also how much it affects you in the brain, man, because it's so concentrated. But yeah, he's got an oil pen as well. It seems like a lot of people have that, and that seems to be the way of the future. I've always been curious culturally how culture would be like, because I grew up like it was Friday night. You go to I was born in 1990, so like Friday nights, 1990. The year is 1999, and we're going to Blockbuster to get movies. I'm getting a game maybe or something, renting a game. Get my Pepsi and ice cream, get nice and fat because it's good to give your kids lots and lots of sugar. And just kidding. And basically, also my parents would go and get like a big stack of, beer or whatever from the local distributor and stuff. Just kind of a routine, just ready for the weekend kind of thing. And I've always been curious, like, what would life have been like if I was a kid growing up in a time where the ganja was more normal, there was dispensaries everywhere, and your parents, like, instead of going to, the beer distributor to get Bush Light or some disgusting variant of that, got some, just, I don't know, just a bunch of leaves or edibles or something of that nature. Or, even in college, it's like all these kids go to school, and a lot of them like freaking, go through, I worked in the hospital, so a lot of patients would come in experiencing like, alcohol poisoning and just drink too much, end up in a diaper in the ER and stuff like that. I was fortunate not to have to work with too many diaper babies there, because I never was down in the ER. But basically I was always curious, like, what if the ganja was the normal thing to do, from the ages of 18 to 22 or whatever, which I know a lot of students do that. But I mean, what if it was more out in the open, the same way that you can go down the street and of downtown wherever, and every place has got, every building is essentially has a pub there, but it's for smoke da ting, man. And just how, I mean, I feel like if that was the case, not many people would even leave their spot wherever they're at. Just a general curiosity. I'm sure some people out in, Washington, California, Colorado, all those kinds of places that are making it legal. Like, I'm curious, like, how growing up for people has been. You can get psychosis from pot. Uh-oh. That sounds scurry. I don't want psychosis. I'll just drink my Pepsi. Just say weed. Weed. Ooh. You want to hear witch stories? I don't think we have any witch stories. Well, this one's a banshee story, so that's kind of like a witch. Anybody here ever injected weed? Raise your hand. Oh shoot, we're at 650, almost 660 peoples. Be sure to tell your friends, click like, join the Discord, follow me on Instagram and Twitter, so you can keep up and know when all the new streams are. My name is Tom. I wanted to share my story with you. I've kept to myself for years. In all the time, I had been both a haunting memory and in some ways oddly a pleasant one. Just kidding. I won't read in that accent. Lynn Tillman with $5. I got 5 on it. I got 5 on it. My name is Tom. I wanted to share a story with you I've kept to myself for many years. And all this time, it's been both a haunting memory and, in some ways, oddly a pleasant one. I live in Alabama, but my family roots run deeply in Ireland. My grandparents have been telling me a few stories about the Fae of Celtic. Oh, whoops. My grandparents have been telling me stories about the Fae of Celtic legend since I was 5 years old. Leprechauns, changelings, fairies, and the subject of the story, the banshee. I've always took my grandparents at their word, assuming the legends to be true, up until my teenage years when I began to grow up, or so I thought. As I'm sure you've guessed by now, there came a time when I was forced to see that I was wrong. The night before my high school graduation, my grandfather passed away due to a heart attack, and I had to open my eyes to the legends once again. That very night, I became a true believer. Needless to say, I didn't make it to my graduation ceremony, opting to stay with my grandmother and keep her company. She was understandably broken up. At about 2 in the morning, 5 hours after my grandfather passed, I decided to sneak out to the front porch of my grandmother's rural home for a quick cigarette while everyone else was sound asleep. It happened about 5 hours after my grandfather passed. I had decided to stay with my family so I could help console my now widowed grandmother. It was about 2 in the morning when I decided to sneak a cigarette on the front porch of my grandparents' rural home well, didn't she just say that? What the heck? I'm confused. Oh yeah, they're repeating the same sort of thing, but that's weird. It's like a different style they're saying it. She was understandably broken up at 2 in the morning, 5 hours of... It happened after 5... Oh yeah, they said it twice, the 5-hour part. That's kind of weird, but they wrote it differently. Not even... It must have like stopped and then came back to it or something. Red Moth with the 2 says, any scurry stories from your day as an RN? Just a lot of gross stuff, you know. I've come to the realization, like nursing, a registered nurse here in the United States of America in the state of Kentucky is a great job. It's a great job, a highly commendable job, a good paying job, a secure job, all the beautiful things you can say about something to sell it to people in college, And I would say if you're thinking about going back to school for that or starting school for that, I would highly, highly advise it. But I will tell you and warn you that your experiences with people in the hospital, 75% of the people in there are going to be at their lowest, one of their lowest points in their life. Same with their families that are with them and that kind of thing. There are a few things that happen at a hospital that are relatively routine. 666 viewers. Uh-oh. Mark Zuckerberg's going to slither in here soon. But, there's a lot of good in nursing, but at the same time, when you're dealing with people at their lowest lows all the time, it really does take its toll on you. So I would say that please get into nursing. Don't take it too lightly before you go in. Really do your research and maybe even follow some nurses, shadow them around or anything. I don't know. That's not even the question you asked. But anyways, yeah, there was a lot of gross stuff, a lot of poop, a lot of wounds, a lot of blood, a lot of just every fluid that comes out of a human's body. I probably saw it on a daily basis, just covered in it, just swimming in it. Me, let's read. Just take a bath in everybody's fluids. It's just a gross experience, but someone's got to do it. And thankfully you got a lot of backup when you're there. A lot of people, a lot of the nursing assistants are literally lifesavers. They're the true backbone of the hospital for sure. All right, so anyways, we're getting back to this story about this banshee here. Sorry to get on a sidetrack. Let's see, where do I even start? I didn't see my grandson. She was understandably broken up. At about 2 in the morning, 5 hours after my grandfather passed, I decided to sneak out to the front porch of my grandmother's rural home for a quick cigarette while everyone else was sound asleep. The night was cold and dimly lit by a full moon. After my first drag from the cigarette, the gravity of the situation hit me and I lost it. Tears streamed down my face as I contemplated life without the man I grew up loving. All the memories came flooding in like a tidal wave crashing at the shores of my mind. It took me a while to cool down, but eventually I was able to collect myself. Just as the feeling of flushed-out emotional energy started to wash over me, I heard the most bone-chilling scream I've ever heard in my life. My head darted frantically, straining to find something to pick out in the low light. My eyes caught on a splotch of paleness not far away from the house. It was a long, flowing white dress. As I scanned upward, analyzing the unexpected figure, I could see strands of long black hair dancing in the wind, obscuring the mysterious face of a woman. One word came to the forefront of my mind as I desperately searched for an explanation. Banshee. As I stared on, I noticed another figure standing next to the woman. After focusing my eyes on it, I could clearly see that it was my grandfather. He was right there, just meters away from me. 5 hours after he was taken away by the ambulance to have his final wishes carried out. He gazed longingly toward the house, while the woman stared away into the distance. I watched them, petrified for what seemed like an eternity before the banshee suddenly turned her head to lock eyes with me. My heart seemed to stop as the details of her legend came back to me. The banshee was said to be something like an angel of death, appearing to signify the death of someone. Some say she appears to take lives. A few seconds later, she unleashed another unearthly scream as my grandfather raised his hand to bid me farewell one last time. The two vanished before my eyes, leaving me alone in the darkness. After that night, the way I saw the things was for... Saw the things? The way I saw the things was for... After that night, the way I saw... Okay, just things. Individual things. Zuck has entered the chat. After that night, the way I saw things was forever altered. I realized that the world we think we know is far too strange to make many hard claims. This event began what I strongly feel will be a trend in my life. I have this inkling that my future holds many more bizarre encounters. I've had a few more already. You're funny. My angel was... Wait, funny. My ghost was an angel of death as well. That for real believe him. Huh. Bubs is here. Yeet yeet. Yeet yeet yeet. You can get some yeets in the chat. Yeeters. Yeeters of America. So these next two stories, the last two stories, are actually about vampires. Vampires, so to speak. So to head. Everyone invests in the Facebook cryptocurrency. I would not. I feel like it's really weird because my friend showed me, and I'm not saying like this is truth, and don't put a tinfoil Alex Jones hat on me just yet. Someone yoded. Past tense. But if you take... So the new cryptocurrency from Facebook is called Libra, I believe. And if you take the sort of ancient symbol... I forget where it's from, but it's like... It means... Sorry, I got the voice screechies. It means Libra. And it's basically like 3 horizontal... Like the symbol for the actual cryptocurrency is 3 horizontal squiggly lines on top of each other. And then the going back through history, like that Libra symbol roughly translates to the sort of like the 666, kind of weird stuff that I don't know exists in like the occult. So it's really strange to see that like this cryptocurrency is already like taking most of its symbology based in like ancient occultism. And I'm not saying that Zuckerberg's a lizard man. All I'm saying is that it's a little strange to me to get yeeted so hard. You've all been pranked. I'm just kidding. Okay. Let's yeet these vampires in the Philippines. What do you guys say? His voice is like chocolate. Symbolism. Symbolism is really strange. It's like some of the weirdest stuff to study. I'm a 24-year-old male living in the Philippines. The story I wanted to share with you isn't exactly my own, but was told to me by my father some years ago. The events transpired when I was only... God, now I'm starting to get squeaks. The events transpired when I was only a year old. Back then, my family lived in a pretty rural area where everyone knew everyone. We also had a ton of relatives nearby living in the same group of neighborhoods. One day, my dad was outside in the backyard watering plants. He was minding his own business when he suddenly noticed an unusually large black bird perched in an old tree. The branches of that tree hung low, so my dad got a much better look at the bird than I'm sure he wanted to. He didn't think anything of it at first, but he soon noticed that the bird's eyes were a deep red. Not glowing or anything like that, but more like they were severely bloodshot. He said the bird sat there, staring at him, returning my father's ponderous gaze just as intently as he watched it. Dad was unsettled, but soon got back to his work, got done watering, and went outside. A few hours later, it was night. Dad went back outside to do some more chores in the yard. Now, the way our houses were set up, there was sort of an alleyway with a fence that separated our house from the one next door. My dad was finishing up when he caught a glimpse of something small scurrying across the alleyway, making a splash in a puddle of water. Since we had a pet turtle at the time, a red-eared slider, Dad thought that maybe the turtle got out of his tank somehow and was trying to run off. He walked over to the dark alley and, upon closer inspection, found the culprit. Oddly, what he found there was a large crab of some kind. This wasn't a common sight in my area. The crab the size of a dinner plate. The strangest part was that, in the low light coming from the back of our house, my dad could see the crab's eyes. They were the same deep blood-red color of the blackbirds he'd seen earlier. The crab stopped in his tracks and stared him down, that same intense glare from his encounter with the large bird. He quickly dropped what he was doing and went back inside the house, admittedly creeped out by yet another bizarre animal sighting. The next day, Dad went to speak to the neighborhood elders about what he'd seen. They told him it was an aswang. An asswang. You saw an asswang. Wonder how you say aswang. Anybody Filipino knows how to? Aswang. Aswang. What are you guys doing? You're typing out things, doing Ouija board. Chat does Ouija board. He should read romance novels and really drive the ladies wild. Oh yeah. 50 Shames of Ape. I should get a tarot deck and learn it. No thanks. You can... Aswang. Ashwang. D's nuts. I'm Filipino. Ranella Cruz, do you know how to say the aswang? Alright, I'll Google it. Google knows everything. Oh gosh, it's scary looking, guys. Oh man. The Merriam Dictionary. The Merriam. Wait, what the heck? It doesn't actually have a pronunciation. Are you kidding me? Aswan. Aswan. Aswang. See, I don't... Alright, going backwards. You'd think of all things the Merriam Dictionary would have it. Aswang. Uswung is how... Uswung. Dude, every time you have ad blocker, it's like gotta remind you. Uswung. Okay. 50 Shades of Freeze Nuts. The Google Translate, I mean, it's just kind of like a, yeah, we'll do Uswang. Seems about right. I feel like they should make a scary movie. Uswang. Alright, here we go, baby. By Peter Aon.
Aswang.
Aswang. Alright. Male from Philippines. I think he'd know. Aswang. I swung so far away. Wow, we're at 730 people right now. That's pretty ballin', guys. Thanks for being here. You guys are amazing. Aswang. Alright, so... where were we here? The next day, okay. The next day, Dad went to speak to the neighborhood elders about what he'd seen. They told him it was an aswang. So if you didn't know, stories of aswang are all over the Philippines, especially out in rural areas. They're basically the Philippines' equivalent to vampires of Western folklore in terms of mythology. They're said to be shapeshifters who have a taste for human and animal entrails, but their most sought-after delicacy is the flesh of an unborn child. The legends have it that the aswang would crawl around on rooftops at night, searching for pregnant women. When it found one... sorry. When it found one, it would settle above the expectant mother as she slept, winding its freakishly long, prehensile tongue into her room by some opening... What? By some opening in the... Oh, I see. When it found one, it would settle above the expectant mother as she slept, winding its freakishly long, prehensile tongue into her room by some opening in the roof, and suck the baby out from her very womb. As it happened, my mother was pregnant with my little sister. One of the elders claimed he knew the aswang had paid a visit to our house. I don't know how he knew this information, but he insisted that this particular aswang wasn't trying to eat my sister. Rather, he said it simply liked being around pregnant women because it finds their aroma to be somehow intoxicating. My dad said although it was still creepy, he was a bit relieved that he wasn't dealing with a creature that wanted to harm his family. My sister was born without any problems, and we never heard from that creature again, as far as I know. Oh, man. A vampire who comes and tries to force an abortion on you. That's real cool. I do like all the different creatures of folklore from different cultures and stuff like that. Just because it's so cool to, like, I mean, let alone all the entertainment that different cultures come up with and stuff, like how different things are in Japan compared to here in the United States, how weird it can seem to us, just imagining all their weird folklore that exists elsewhere as well is pretty neat and mildly inspiring, I guess, if you're a creepypasta writer. Alright, so this is a vampire in Nebraska, so this probably won't be an Aswang. Uswang. Uswang. Pro-lifers are shook by the Aswang. They've weaponized the Aswang. When I was around 5 or 6 years old, my family lived in a small 2-story home near the outskirts of Omaha, Nebraska. Imagine if you were standing out in front facing the house, you would see that a lonely streetlight was off to the left, and my room was on the right side, kind of sitting in the house's shadow. Before I explain what I saw, I have to give you a quick side note. The kids at my school used to say that my eyes turned red when I got angry, so they gave me a very hurtful nickname. One day when I got home from school, I saw it written with markers on my bedroom window. Big, jagged letters scrawled out the word demon across the glass. I couldn't believe someone went to so much trouble just to do that to me. They used a ladder we kept around back of the house. It hadn't been moved in ages and was covered with weeds and dirt, so it left clear signs against the wall below my window. I got so mad that I hit the window with a rock and it shattered. My father had to cover it with a garbage bag and some duct tape. It was a summer night, close to midnight, when I got up to go to the bathroom. Despite it being so late, I was awake and full of energy, so I decided to sneak and play video games in my room. About an hour later, around 1 a.m., out of nowhere, I hear a faint scream coming from outside. I could tell it was a woman. Scared but still curious, I ran downstairs to look out the window in the living room, but I was shocked when I realized that the whole room was bathed in red light. As I surveyed the surreal environment, it felt like an alien world despite the fact that it was full of the furniture and items I saw and enjoyed every day. I looked up to see the windows were all covered, essentially plastered with some kind of paper-like material that seemed to be soaked in blood-red liquid. I ran back up to my room and carefully climbed up on the sill, peering through the unbroken part of the window so as not to be noticed. What I saw, just at the edge of the circle of light on the street, was the shape of a man crouching over a woman who lay motionless on the ground. The man wore an orange short-sleeved shirt and what looked like jeans, but the girl was dressed in a sort of business casual attire. A collared white shirt with a black skirt and stockings. I saw a streak of blue in her otherwise brown hair. The man looked up and his face was so pale that it stood in contrast against the darkness around him. A dark red speared... Wait, what? A dark red speared and stained... Oh, I never heard that adjective, speared. Interesting. A dark red speared and stained his mouth and face, and that's when I realized I was looking at a vampire. As the shock and fear began to build in my mind, he turned his head directly toward me with a startled look. He glared at me before sweeping the girl up from the ground and dashing away with such incredible speed, it didn't seem natural at all, even to my childlike mind. I went back downstairs after he left and saw that the windows were back to normal. The next day I went over to the spot where the attack had occurred and saw spots of blood on the pavement along with a silver necklace. I took the necklace and cleaned it up, and I still have it to this day. The crazy thing is, following the incident, I began to have nightmares of my hands being drenched in blood. Those soon evolved into dreams where everything in my house would be spattered with it. My bed, the floor, the ceiling, and the walls. It was like I was living in a slaughterhouse. A few days later, I woke up and had a bite mark on my arm. The mark was deep enough that it drew blood, so I showered and covered it up, doing my best to keep it hidden because I knew no one would believe me and I already had a reputation for being a demon at school. On top of that, I knew my mother would have thought I was cutting myself and I just didn't want the trouble. I guess I was pretty stupid back then. I don't know what I saw, and I know I was very young, but I truly believe the man was a vampire. Hey, oh shoot, I gotta stop that. See you, Greg. Take it, Greg Lebu. Have a good one. Wow, we're almost at 800 watchers here. Thank you guys for being here with us. I'm going to read that last line again. I don't know what I saw, and I know I was very young, but I truly believe the man was a vampire. Well, that's weird. Yeah, if like they're older now, does that mean they're a vampire that's admitting to it? It's weird because like ghosts seem to be a phenomenon that like that are pretty consistent. You know, even like sightings of Sasquatch, maybe even sightings of like a dog man type creature. But one thing that's not super common that I don't hear about too often, and maybe it's just because they're good at hiding, is vampires. I can't stop with 800 viewers. I know. Let me read my outro. Let me read my outro real quick. I should read Tales from the Gas Station, please. It's an amazing series. Or listen to Mr. Creepypasta. We could just listen to other narrators during the stream. That'd be funny. I wouldn't mind it if some of them wanted to. I just don't want to step on anybody's toesies. Alright, so let's see here. I need to open up my ending. But you guys need to think of something I should say that is very hilariously funny to go with the ending. You know, like where I'm like, thanks so much, friends. And remember, poopity doopity doo. Doopity doo. Step on my toesies. I'm very much into getting my toes stepped on. That's what I'm into. Modern media has turned vampires into a joke. They must be taken seriously. We will have our revenge. Spirit vampires, that's interesting. Remember to suck my butt. 36 mistakes, not too bad. I'm able to say wunderbar. Wunderbar. Wubba lubba dub dub. I like turtles. Rubber baby buggy bumpers. Chuck steak. Breadmouth. A Smith & Wesson beats 4 aces. I'm gonna get demonetized by YouTube for mentioning guns. Remember, don't scratch between your toes and then pick your nose. Don't scratch between your cheeks and pick your teeth. Don't forget to wipe and stay off the pipe. Oh, that's actually really good. I don't think I've heard that before. I don't know what to say about all this in the face of such literary commentary genius. Thanks. Alright. Hey friends, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell to be alerted of all future narrations. If you got a story, be sure to submit them to my subreddit, r/Let's Read Official, and give and receive feedback from the community, and maybe even hear your story featured on the next video. And join my Discord to interact with me and other listeners directly. And if you want to support me even more, grab early access to all future narrations for just $1 a month on Patreon, and maybe even pick up some Let's Read merch on Spreadshirt. Links in the bio. Thanks so much, friends. And remember, don't forget to wipe and stay off the pipe. Boom shakalaka laka. Dunder and Mifflin, this is Joel. Oh boy, guys, it has been one heck of a freaking night. Am I right, guys? What's something, just since there's so many people here tonight, and I really appreciate you guys yeeting and yoting all over the place, what is something I could read to you that's not super duper long, but isn't super duper short either? Shrek is love, Shrek is life. That sounds like a good idea. Script. 4chan genius. Alright, this is what you guys are getting. And there's no negotiating around it. I was 9 years old. Oops, I'm actually recording this. I guess I shouldn't record it. We don't need to record it anymore. Let me just turn my other mic away. Squeak, squeak, squeakity squeak. Alright. Here we go. I was only 9 years old. I loved Shrek so much I had all the merchandise and movies. I pray to Shrek every night, thanking him for the life I've been given. Shrek is love, I say. Shrek is life. My dad hears me and calls me a faggot. I know he was just jealous of my devotion to Shrek. I called him a cunt. He hits me and sends me to sleep. I'm crying now and my face hurts. I lay in bed really cold. I feel something warm. It's Shrek. I was so happy. He whispers in my ear, "This is my swamp." He grabs me with his ogre hands and puts me on my hands and knees. I'm ready. I spread my ass cheeks for Shrek. He penetrates my butthole. It hurts so much, but I do it for Shrek. I can feel my butt tearing and eyes watering. I want to please Shrek. He roars a mighty roar as he fills my butt with his love. My dad walks in. Shrek looks him straight in the eye and says, "It's all ogre now." Shrek leaves through my window. Shrek is love. Shrek is life. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys all for being here. This was a really good time, and you guys are amazing. This is my swamp. I don't know if that resonates with anybody. Jessica Sanchez with the 2 says, "I love you. I fall asleep to you every night." Well, thank you. Hopefully we can do a Shrek is love, Shrek is life, Shrek is love part 4. I don't know if anybody's got the full copyrights on that intellectual property. This was on full blast throughout my house. That's really funny. Everybody's traumatized. Well, guys, yeah. Thanks for chilling. This was a great night. I needed to do something special for 700 viewers. That was next level. So I really appreciate you guys just showing so much positive support. If you guys want to continue to hang out and be part of the community, be sure to join the Discord. Let me actually link that. I don't know, any mods here right now to link that possibly? I will go ahead and link that a few times in the chat. Who wrote that? That's from 4chan. So the Discord is linked. I need to explain to my mom. I'm sorry. I'm going to get a call from a lot of angry mothers now. A lot of Karens. Bent Sam with the $2. Thank you, Bent. But yeah, join the Discord if you haven't already. Continuing to spam it. Ban Let's Read for spamming. Yeah, that's true. Join it. Join. There's always a nice little after party going on throughout the evening. It's a good time. If your mother's traumatized from the audio, you should show her the video. That still exists on YouTube, just by and by. All right, my friends. Much love to you. And you got a couple marriage proposals here. Yeah, 2019, baby. You better be getting on your knee. I'm just a dainty little butterfly who needs a lady. Karen is legit your mom's name, but I haven't lived with her for a spell. Well, yeah, don't show her the end of this stream. Well, I love you guys, and I don't want to leave, but we all have to move on somewhere. Take ever so care of yourself and love yourself and be good to each other. And until, and this video will be out tomorrow at like 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So wherever you are at in relation to that time on Earth, be ready for it. It's going to be beautiful. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter to keep updated with everything. And thanks so much, guys. And I'll see you again soon.